Hello YouTube and Happy New Year. Little bit of a different video this time, and I hope you stick with me. If you don't, that's fine. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on what I'm planning to do on the layout, or rather what my new layout plans are for 2026. The last couple of videos I shared were the last switching session on the 2 turnout layout, and then prior to that really just a video describing how that was coming to its end. I don't feel sad about it at all. I mean, it's always a bit of a shame to kind of rip up your work, but I've enjoyed the process. I just got to that point where actually it was starting to be used less, and I was starting to think about new things I want to do. So if you'll indulge me, a little bit of background and history, and it is relevant really to what I'm doing. So I didn't grow up as a railway or model railway fan. It wasn't something that I was really on my radar at all. I had a train set as a kid. My dad bought us like an oval of Hornby track and a couple of little locos and wagons and stuff. Kind of toyed around with that, but I think really by the time I'd gone to school it was something that just wasn't, as I say, on my radar at all. And hobby-wise, I think wargaming and playing with toy soldiers has been much more my thing really for most of my life. But about 20 years ago we moved into a house, and as part of the process of moving in, you've got the deeds and the history of the house and so on, and this was built about 1900, and I was just interested to learn that one of the previous owners of the house used to be an engine driver on the Midland Railway, and at the time I didn't really know anything about the railway history of the town that I was in, so that sparked a bit of an interest. I love history. Just looking into that, and then started looking at old maps and found the old railway branch, which is actually the Rolleston branch, which ran from Mansfield across the countryside to Southwell. And I was familiar with the old railway line, and because it's now a walking trail as well. And at the time in Farnsfield, about halfway along that branch, there was still the old goods shed. It's now been converted into a private dwelling, so it's still there along with the old station buildings, which again are private dwellings. But at the time you could go and sort of poke about and so on. So I knew of the railway line, and I'd never really made the connection properly between that and where I was living, and it very likely that the guy who lived in the house that I was in was a driver on that, worked for the Midland Railway. He may well have even run on that line. So anyway, that sparked it all off, and at the time my son was only a couple of years old, so you know, Thomas the Tank and all that kind of stuff came along, and I picked up a Railway Modeler, I think it was, magazine, started looking at kind of 00 and all that kind of stuff, and then very soon I found Carl Arendt's micro layouts website, and that really kind of just got me into all kinds of weird stuff like GN15 and narrow gauge and American railroads and all kinds of stuff. This whole world opened up really, and with that incredibly, I didn't realise at the time how lucky I was really to have happened across Carl. Never met the guy, but we did correspond a little bit, and he was always really encouraging, really positive, and really encouraged creativity and just thinking out of the box a little bit. So this notion that you had to have this loop on a 4x6 board and you start with a Hornby track set and blah blah blah, out the window completely. And that really kind of steered me for what I've been doing with model railways for quite some time. And clearly I got into some of the American stuff, the North American stuff. I quite like the kind of the pure freight switching element of that, if you like, and just the fascination with doing something a little bit different. Anyway, all of this is relevant because the one thing that's really kind of just been there at the back of my mind for a long time is that apart from when I built Winkford Green, which was sort of inspired by Colonel Stevens' light railways, I've never really done the sort of classic 00 branch line terminus layout. And I just figured, do you know what, I'm getting older, getting closer to drawing my pension. It feels like an itch that I ought to scratch. And in the background, I've collected a few odds and sods, just 1 or 2 locos, and I got gifted a Johnson 1P, which was the kind of loco that ran on that Rolleston branch locally. So I've got a few bits and bobs, which are all kind of LMS, 1930s-ish. Just a handful of stock and a couple of locos, with the idea that one day I would build that layout. And I just thought, seeing as I'd come to a point where I just wanted to do something new now anyway, actually for 2026, or at least the first part of it, let's do that. So that's the plan, is that I'm looking to build something in 00, 4mm, British LMS, probably 1930s. That's kind of where I'm stuck at the moment. And I have worked up a little bit of history, as you do, as railway modelers do, for a fictional branch, or spur if you like, that ran off the Rolleston branch. So in reality there were a couple of little spurs that ran off that joined local collieries, and in my mind there was one that extended beyond the Blidworth branch, heading down towards Loudham, and I'll show some maps. But for whatever reason, it only got as far as near the village of Oxton. So I'm looking at building a layout which is a fictitious one called Oxton Road. So it's somewhere near Oxton Village in Nottinghamshire, in the 1930s. So it's very firmly set in a period, a location. I've got a good idea of what kind of traffic and that kind of stuff as well. And I'm quite enthused by it. So I'm just working through some rules at the moment for myself, some parameters about things like, am I going to use 00 or something else like EM? Am I going to stick to sort of real code 100 and basic track, or try and do something a little bit more complicated? What kind of couplings am I going to use? All that kind of stuff. So on the whole, really positive, quite encouraged by it. One little thing that I thought I'd share, because it might resonate with some of you as well, is that I do find this little voice keeps cropping up, which is asking myself, are you getting this right? Is that correct? So basically the old rivet counter. And it's not me, it's I guess because I post videos on YouTube, I'm already anticipating some of these comments that might be, that's not quite right, and that wagon didn't appear there, and that sort of thing. And thinking about it, I think that's one of the reasons why I've steered away from ever doing anything like this. And I suspect it's something that puts off a lot of people from just getting stuck in and building something, because they're worrying about that negative feedback. I am generally not. I'm going to try and get it right. For me, it's much more about the feel of it. I have to remind myself that although I do this for YouTube, which is honestly really more just to spur me on, I guess, and to share it with some of you guys who all share your hobby stuff too. I'm not trying to please an audience, if you like. I'm doing this for my pleasure. And if other people get some pleasure out of watching that stuff as well, then that's great. So there you go, rambling on, very different from the usual videos, and I dare say 99% of you probably switched off about 2 minutes in. But Happy New Year again, all the best to all of you. I've no idea how regularly I'm going to be providing updates, because it's just as regular as I actually get stuff done. You might have sussed, I'm not in this for the YouTube, for the likes and the subscriptions and the payment and all that kind of stuff. So you won't be seeing me posting regular videos just because I'm supposed to for the algorithms. It'll be as and when I've got something I'd like to share. Still enjoying everybody's work. I appreciate also, this might lose a lot of subscribers if you're really here just for that American HO stuff, but if you're interested in model railroading or railway modelling in general, then hopefully there might be something of interest for you in 26. So yeah, that's it. Until next time, and there's a bit more of a tangible update, take care.